everybody, and welcome to Let's Look at Gone Home. This is a game that's been generating a lot of buzz, at least over social media, at least in the channels that I follow, over the course of the past 6 months or so. I know it made a big impression at GDC, I know it made a big impression at Rezzed, and it was also an IGF finalist, although I'm not familiar with the actual category that it was nominated in. But in any case, what is Gone Home? Gone Home is an interactive narrative, kind of in the same style, you could say, as something like a Dear Esther. And I want to point out here that if you have interest in Gone Home already, if you've been following its development, turn back now. It's inevitable that I'm going to spoil something here. I'm going to avoid major spoilers, and there are many. But, you know, you're better off going in blind. If you're already interested in this game, if it's piqued your interest, it's fantastic. It's one of the best games I played this year. I beat it in one sitting yesterday, kind of on a whim, and was just completely engrossed the entire time. I think it's a fantastic game, fantastic story, and really actually deeply affecting and moving. So, for those of you who were interested in the game, go pick it up. It's going to be available on Steam as of the time that this video is up, or at the game's actual website, which is located in the video description below. For those of you who are not familiar with Gone Home at all, I am going to show you a little bit of the gameplay and try to convince you why, despite the fact that this is a game that is not normally well suited for video content like this, this is among the best games of the year. So, why don't we just get started, and I will set the stage a little bit here. I will overwrite existing game progress because I've already beaten it, and we will just load in here, and I believe we are going to start with some kind of audio narration that's going to set the stage, and I'll be quiet because it's important to highlight the fact that the voice work in this game is actually extraordinarily well done, both from a writing and an acting standpoint. So hopefully we will see this load in just a second here. By the way, I should mention this is made by the Fulbright Company. I know that there are members on the staff of the Fulbright Company that actually worked on BioShock 2, Minerva's Den.
So I got my ticket home from Europe. I get back on June 6th, but it's a really late flight because that was the cheapest, so it gets in at midnight. But don't worry, I'll get a shuttle from the airport so you don't have to pick me up. Like, really seriously, you don't have to. Okay, so, love you. See you soon. Bye.
So that sets the stage for Gone Home. Essentially, we are playing as, I think her name is Catherine, but that might be a mistake. It's been a while, I guess, since I heard my own name in the game. Because the story, the way the story is told, is not in a literal kind of exposition sense. Instead, they tell it through these kind of found primary sources, these audio dialogues that you'll find as you play. But anyway, so this is, it's a first-person exploratory game, and you know, there's times when it's going to look like Amnesia. It's nothing like Amnesia. There's times when it's going to look like it's going to turn into like a point-and-click adventure. This is not a point-and-click adventure. There's no puzzles. There's no to a certain extent, if you were going to be derisive, you could say that there's no gameplay, like there's no gamey elements. It's about kind of holistically taking in your circumstances and your surroundings, and you know, there is a little bit of detective work that goes into it. But it's a game about discovery, so your main way of interacting with the environment is you can pick up all of these. I totally just spoiled the puzzle there. There's not really a puzzle, but you can pick up objects in the environment and then examine them. And this is not, you know, like Tomb Raider where you're gonna, like, the controller or mouse will start to vibrate and you'll be like, oh, this is the clue of this. It doesn't matter. Everything, this game feels really real. Everything that you do feels real. So, for example, like, the way that this is supposed to go, let's just put this duck down here, is that you're going to try to open the door, but it's not actually going to open. So you would, you know, in your head, this is why it feels so real, because you'd be like, oh, where's the key? And then just like the first time I played it, I was immediately like, ah, this duck looks like it would probably hide a key. Anyway, we'll pick up this key and put it in our inventory. I know this seems point-and-click adventure-y right now. There's like 3 items over the course of the entire game that I added to my backpack. So let's take a look at this note here. Katie, so that's our name. I'm sorry I can't be there to see you, but it is impossible. Please, please don't go digging around trying to find where I am. I don't want anyone to know. We'll see each other again someday. Don't be worried. I love you, Sam. Now, we're going to unlock our door and kind of move inside here. And this is the house where all of the quote-unquote gameplay for this game takes place. Now, again, I advise you, if you're interested, turn back now. Because I'm going to do my best to avoid accidentally spoiling anything, but it really does ruin some of the magic if you're going to watch anymore. So, with that kind of caveat and that warning at the top of this, let's talk about basically our objective. Our objective here, you know, we've come home from our trip to Europe, and we're going to try to figure out, A, why there's nobody in this house, particularly why our sister Sam is not here, and there's going to be elements of creepiness or kind of supernatural, but there's also a really human element to the story. The story is extraordinarily well told, and the way it's told is really interesting as well. Without any kind of exposition, well, that's not totally fair, but without any kind of like cutscene being like thousands of years ago, it's more like, you know, you'll just open up invoices and stuff, or documents of various kinds, and you'll see things that you can kind of draw your own conclusion from. So, for example,
Katie,
whoa.
So much has changed, even just since you've been away. We moved into this house. I'm in a new school, and my big sister being gone for a year doesn't make it any easier. It doesn't feel real, but I'm not gonna let it faze me. I used to tell you everything, and if I can't do it in person, because you're off gallivanting around who knows where, I'll tell it to this journal, just like I was talking to you.
All right, so that was actually a good time for that to happen. Occasionally, you know, some of these documents are inessential, and some of them are basically very paramount towards moving the story forward. So I believe that was just, they kind of triggered on the first document that we picked up. Sam's journal are the entries that are the most important for kind of advancing the story, and this is a game that's really the story about Sam, who is your sister, and you know, her complications with moving into this big house, which may or may not be haunted, and going to a new school, and dealing with all sorts of different things that I don't necessarily want to spoil just yet. But there's other documents that just kind of serve to tell you a little bit more about the house or the world or the circumstances that you and your family are in. For example, here is our, I guess our boarding pass or our travel itinerary for us coming home. So for us leaving to Europe, which we did earlier. So we're going to come across all sorts of stuff like that in the game, and this is the gameplay. We're going to be opening drawers, we're going to be reading documents, and we're going to be hearing occasionally little nuggets of Sam's life, which is something that might make you skeptical at the start that this will be engrossing, but I promise you, as time goes on, you will get fucking invested in the story. The writing is extraordinarily well told, and before I pick up this note, just in case it does have a an audio journal attached to it, I want to point out two very important things about this game: sound design and music. The original score that kind of backs a lot of those audio journal entries is fantastic. It's done by Chris Remo, who you may know from Idle Thumbs. He's also done some work for Double Fine. And then there's all sorts of like 90s Riot Girl style music that we can find in the game, and you actually like tactily insert cassette tapes into cassette players to hear it, and then it kind of forms like an ambient atmosphere around you. It's really cool. Game set in 1995, so all this stuff is kind of period specific. So we pick up this map. This tells us it's probably our mother leaving or writing a map about how she's going to get to work. Cool. Let's go do some exploration, shall we? Because basically the way that this gameplay is going to shake out is that we're just going to go into every single room, and hopefully all of these rooms will have something that we can do something with. Now, I've been asked not to show anything past the basement. I'll probably stop even well before then, because I really don't want to spoil any of the experience here. Sam, Daniel from the old neighborhood called. He wants to come see the new house. Call him back. Mom, Daniel's a total weirdo. The only reason I ever hung out with him is because he had a Nintendo when we were little. That is, you're a mean lady. So this is our family. I believe that this is actually a painted over picture of the developer's wife's family, which is, or one of the developer's wife's families, which is totally interesting. And, you know, artistically, the game looks really good. We do have a map available here, but you're never going to get lost, really. You're just going to, you know, wander around a little bit. You'll figure it out. The house is, you know, laid out like a typical house would be. It's fairly easy to find your way around places. So, you know, we can see photos here. We can actually take the photo into the light to maybe give us a little bit more information about this. So this is an army cadet named DeSoto that will become exceptionally significant later. There's an obituary here for Oscar Doc Masson. I'm not going to read this entire thing, but to, you know, set the stage a little bit, he owned this house before, and he may or may not be haunting it by way of him being a ghost. This is a postcard that we sent from Paris. Hi, Mom and Dad and Sam. I'm in Paris. I've done many Parisian things, including eating le petit déjeuner and wearing a beret. I'm going to have lots of film to develop when I get back. Sam, I'm bringing you back something from the Shakespeare Book Company, since you are my favorite sister. Cool. All right, so let's try to find some more audio logs. A lot of documents, non-essential, but they do kind of make the story more complete. And you really are going to be... When you first start out here, you could be forgiven for the game taking a while to win you over. Because, you know, I played Bientôt l'été, and I was like, oh, you know, this is interesting, but also kind of pretentious. And I played Proteus, and was like, I'm walking around, I kind of don't get it. That's how I felt about 10 minutes into this game. After half an hour, I was in. By the way, this game is very short, I'd say it takes about 2 hours to complete it. It took me about 2 hours to complete it on my first playthrough. That being said, don't let that seem like a negative. You know, this is more comparable to a film or maybe an album than most games in terms of like the value versus dollar ratio, I would say. This is a story that is going to stay with me for a long time. So let's see if this note means anything. I apologize for skipping over some of these documents.
Oh my god. You are so lucky you finished high school before we moved into this house. So, it's the first day of school, and there I am, introducing myself to the class. And I say that I just moved into the house on Arbor Hill. All of a sudden, every kid in the room turns and just stares like I suddenly transformed into a mutant. I just stood there, wishing pretty hard for a rewind button. Because now maybe nobody knows my name, but they all know who I am. The Psycho House Girl. Great.
So, another thing I want to mention, by the way, all of these are added to your backpack, which I can pull up here and listen to at any time, but I'm not going to listen to them again just now because you just heard it and read it, which is why I put subtitles on. But even though it might seem like, oh, this is a story about like an adolescent, maybe even you're going to say it's a story about an adolescent girl, I can't relate to it, I'm not going to be interested. The writing is good enough that this is not just like, oh, Dad wanted to go shoot pool, but he couldn't drive me to the One Direction concert. I hate my life. My parents are so mean. This is like a really, really touching story, and we're not going to see all the elements of that right away. But I promise you, it's got the writing of something like My So-Called Life or something like that, you know, a really kind of critically acclaimed and beloved 90s series. Yeah, you will care about these problems if you get far enough into the game. So we are playing as kind of like our own little miniatured sandbox detective here, so we can pick up something here and be like, okay, this is The Killing of JFK, a theory. You've seen the movie Discover the Truth by Benjamin Almond. We can put this down here. So someone was reading a bunch of conspiracy theory stuff. And we can zoom in here and look on these posted notes. So JFK president, US plus USSR coalition, Chinese, Japanese, Lebanese, early spaceflight utopia. So somebody in here is into conspiracy theories. And, you know, we can see by this typewriter, they are probably a writer. Why not move on just a little bit? Of course, I know what's going on here, so I'm kind of having to feign a lack of understanding. But, you know, we can pick up some other books as well. What about this one? A Stranger Under My Roof, the #1 best-selling advice for parents of teens. You know, we can read all of this flavor text if we want to, and I would advise that you do. It's very well put together. So what's really interesting about this is that as the game goes on, you really start to understand these characters whose house you are in. And I mean, they are your family, so it makes sense. But it's kind of like, since nobody's here, you can really find out intimate details about their lives that might otherwise be, you know, inaccessible to you under the guise of everyday kind of thought and artifices. So, you know, this is just a novel, or not a novel, sorry, a magazine that is very 90s-esque. 90210, does anybody still care, etc., etc. Now, there are some books in here as well. But yeah, it's really cool. You learn a lot about the way that this family is. You know, just to spoil something here, Terrence L. Greenbrier is actually our dad. If you looked at the painting in the lobby and saw that his name was Terry, you probably could have figured that out. And we can see, okay, so he's an author, and he's writing stuff about, you know, conspiracy theories. A message from our future saved the president's life once, but within the next 24 hours, there will be another attempt, and the lines of communication are down. Cool. So we can put that down there and open this box, and, you know, you can see there's a lot of books in there. There's also a girly magazine, which I am not going to open up because I don't want my YouTube channel to get banned. So let's just consider that that is done for now. So we're going to learn a lot about our sister. Of course, she's the main focus of the game, but we're also going to learn a ton about our dad and our mom and kind of the struggles that they're going through. Not only with raising their kid, but their struggles with one another as well. So let's play for a little bit longer here and get a few more audio diaries from Sam, hopefully, to kind of set the stage. Hi, let's turn off the TV. That's kind of annoying. Hi, Terry. Enclosed, please find a Pioneer CLDD 703 unit with remote and cables. We need a half-page review for the October issue, so that gives you about 2 weeks to get us the copy for edit. So, you know, what is the subtext here to spoil it? Probably our dad's, maybe his writing career is not going as, or his novelist career, his, like, fiction writing career is not going as well as he wants, so he has to do, like, some freelance work for, like, a tech magazine. Or maybe, you know, maybe he loves doing freelance work for a tech magazine. I'm not one to judge. I'm just saying I think that's the conclusion that I drew from this anyway. So I believe there is a, at some point there will be another audio dialogue close to here. So let's see what this says. Making friends even when you something. Sam thought this would help Dad.
You know that feeling where the first moment you see someone, it's like they have a big gold star around them? and you have to get to know them. Well, there's this girl. I think she's a senior. She's usually dressed kind of punk. But sometimes I see her in this, like, army uniform. And she's always drawing in this notebook, looking so intense. I had no idea how I would ever, like, have an excuse to talk to her. Till I noticed she and her friends hang out and play Street Fighter at the 7-Eleven every day after school.
All right, so we're going to start encountering more and more of these kind of audio journals as time goes on, and also more and more stuff kind of around here that gives you some flavor into what's going on. Now, there is a supernatural undercurrent that runs through the game. Is the house haunted? Is it not haunted? I'm not going to talk at all about that because that's something you should experience for yourself, but this should give you a clue that, you know, that undercurrent does run through the game. There's a kind of homemade pillow fort here with a book about hauntings and poltergeists. So, you know, we're getting introduced to this idea that, you know, Sam is making a friend at school. I don't think I read this earlier when I played through. There's a lot of documents I probably missed in my first playthrough. Terry, hey man, how have you been? I know you're a published author and everything now, but my editor at Hi-Fi Aficionado has too much review work to go around, and he's looking for another freelancer. Naturally, I thought of you. You were saying in your last letter, it's been much of a pain trying to find a publisher for your latest work of literature, and writing stereo reviews is dead simple. Sit at home with a glass of scotch, listen to some records, and write up how it sounds, and then get paid. All right. So maybe I was indeed more or less correct about that. Ah, by the way, we can start inserting some cassettes into tape decks here, and you can hear some music. So I'm going to talk over this just in case it gets content ID matched. But the music is definitely one of the strongest aspects of this game. Whether or not you are into this kind of music, you know, it is kind of like 90s, lo-fi, Riot Girl style, you know, almost like a Sleater Kinney or something like that. Whether or not you're into it, it sets the stage nicely, and it definitely fits with the characters. So maybe we'll check out another couple of rooms here. And by the way, I am 100% cognizant of the fact that you could be watching this right now saying, oh, this is not for me. This is the absolute worst fucking channel. Not you know, youtube.com/Northernlion, but videos in general, like the kind that assholes like me make. This is the worst channel to figure out whether or not this game is for you, because this asshole, myself, is talking over top of everything and ruining all of these moments. This is definitely a game that is more suited to criticism in print form. Read some reviews if you're still skeptical after you're watching this. Just, if nothing else, trust me when I say that the story in this game is absolutely fantastic, and I have a hard time thinking that you will regret your time with the game. Whether or not you will regret the amount of money that you spend on it depends on, you know, your thoughts on how much games should cost, because I believe this is $20. Don't quote me on that. The Steam pre-order page is not up yet. I believe it's going to be 20 bucks. You know, $20 for a 3-hour experience is something that may perhaps rightfully rub some people the wrong way. And, you know, I'm not one to judge on that. You know your own finances. What I will say is that for the story that you get here, I think it's well worth it. And, you know, you kind of get back from it what you put in as well. If you just walk through the game as fast as you can, trying to find the audio journals, then you're like, got it, achievement unlocked, right? That you're doing yourself a disservice. It really helps to kind of immerse yourself in the game. I think beating it in one sitting, akin to doing like a Walking Dead, the way I beat The Walking Dead, which is playing like every single episode in one sitting. Very smart idea, because you really get into it. So you're walking around here and you're like, okay, there's a bar. Maybe this family's going through some hard times because there's shot glasses like strewn about. There's like some familial strife potentially. There's a very important and telling letter here. Dear Mr. Greenbrier, again, our father, I write to inform you that unfortunately Mercury Books will be unable to publish your follow-up to The Accidental Pariah. Despite the low sales of The Accidental Savior, we went ahead with the publication of the second book in hopes of the John Russell series catching on. However, sales of the second book have in fact been lower than sales of the first, so our stewardship of the series must end here. So yeah, our dad, can't find a publisher for his book. That's pretty rough. We can also, you know, turn on another record here. Music definitely plays an important role in this game, but I wanted to stop it there just in case I got content ID matched. So let's see if we can find one more audio journal. And, you know, there's all sorts of interesting stuff here that I don't want to spoil for you because the flavor is half of the game. But if we can find one more audio journal, then I would feel comfortable calling it quits, because I really am doing my best job to sell this game. I think this is a story that a lot of people are, if not necessarily going to relate to, although I think it is a more relatable story than you might originally expect. It's a story that a lot of people are going to be affected by. It is a very touching tale. Katie, please tell Mom and Dad sorry about the stuff that's missing. Oh, I really thought that would be an audio journal, so we'll see if there's anything in these drawers that advances us just a little bit. And, oh, there's a note in here. That might be it. Hi, Lonnie. So if you wanted to come over to my house still this afternoon, that would be cool. I can drive. It's kind of far, but I can drive you home too, so hopefully that's fine. Write back and leave this in my locker if you still want to, and we can meet in the parking lot after 6th. Yeah, I'm totally in. See you there. Then I'm going to kick your butt. Get ready. That's obviously an intentional typo from the developers. And, you know, she's throwing a Hadoken there.
So you know what they say about the best laid plans of mice and men? Yeah, turns out it applies to Street Fighter too. At least I worked up the courage to walk into the 7-Eleven and ask for a turn, but all that practice at home did not exactly translate in the wild. So after I was finished getting my butt kicked, I followed them outside while they smoked. And that was when she asked me if I was that psycho house girl. But then she said she's always really wanted to see the psycho house. Her name is Lonnie. She's coming over tomorrow.
Alright, so that is where I'm going to call it quits for my look at Gone Home. You know, there's an entire upper floor here that has a ton of gold to mine, and then an entire basement that is perhaps even bigger. So I've very, very slightly scratched the surface here, but I've shown about as much as I feel comfortable with. To a certain extent, I understand that this is not necessarily a 100% representative depiction of what this game's all about and what makes it, in my opinion, one of the best games of the year so far. But you're gonna kind of have to trust me and take me at face value when I say I was, you know, on a personal level, deeply affected by the story, and I don't know if I'll be playing it through again because I'm not sure, you know, how much I missed on the first opportunity, but, you know, I could see myself playing it again years and years down the road to kind of experience it again, the same way one might watch their favorite movies again over and over. But despite that, and despite the fact that it is at a relatively high price point, perhaps compared to other indie games that you might be playing, there is absolutely no negative that I can offer to Gone Home that compensates for the fact that I think this is basically a must-play. I think this is going to be one of the best games of the year. I think people are going to be talking about it. Beyond just the fact that I think it's good, I think it's significant, which is something that I don't say all that often. I think this is a game that is going to be influential to the people that play it, and maybe even informative to some of the people that play it, not to be overly grandiose. But suffice it to say, the fact that I'm using language of this tone and you know, the candor that I have, you should realize that I'm very impressed by what I've played. And yeah, it's as much art as it is a game, and if you think that's derisive, then basically this is your loss. This is Gone Home. There is a link to the Steam page and hopefully the game's website as well in the video description where you can go and pick this up. Again, you know, I understand if your finances are not in such a state that you feel comfortable spending money on this game right now, but at some point down the line, do your best to experience this, and if you're at all interested, pick it up right away. I have a feeling you will not be disappointed. As always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it a little bit entertaining as well as informative, and I will see you next time.